Good afternoon, sir. Can you see and hear me?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. So this afternoon we're going to hear from Mr. Tait.
Yeah.
As we are starting at 1:30, we are likely to have 2 afternoon breaks today.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
Take the book in your right hand, please. And repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God
That the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you give your full name, please?
My name is Duncan Andrew Tait.
Mr. Tait, you should have in front of you a witness statement dated the 21st of May 2024. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could I please ask you to turn to page 67 and confirm that that is your signature?
It is.
Thank you. And is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
Thank you. That statement has a unique reference number of WITN 035701000, and that will be uploaded onto the inquiry's website. Just to begin, by way of a little bit of background, you started your career at BAE Systems in around 1985, is that correct?
That is true.
You worked for a number of different firms, largely in IT-related roles.
That is true.
You joined Fujitsu in 2009.
I did.
I think you came in straight at managing director level
I did.
in what was then the private sector division.
Yep.
In very simple terms, where did that division fall within the overall hierarchy of Fujitsu?
So the private sector division reported directly to the UK and Ireland CEO. And there were a number of other divisions. There was a government business division. And then I think there were 2 or 3 divisions that delivered services into those. So, for instance, there was a core division and an applications division where the bulk of the people in the business worked.
Thank you. I think you've said in your witness statement that the post office business fell within the private sector division because the intention was for it to go private.
Yes, that was my understanding when I joined.
Thank you. When you were managing director, you reported directly to the CEO, who was at that time Roger Gilbert, is that right?
That's true.
In 2011, you became CEO.
I did, in April 2011.
Thank you. And from April, you were CEO for UK and Ireland, and then over time, you took more and more countries. I think in 2014, you were CEO for Europe, Middle East, India, and Africa.
That's right.
Including the UK at that time.
Including the UK.
2015, you were appointed to the board.
Of Fujitsu in Japan, yes.
And 2016, you became responsible for the Americas. Is that in addition to EMEA and the...
That is in addition to those.
So your portfolio expanded and expanded as the years went by.
It did.
When did you leave Fujitsu?
I left at the end of July 2019.
Thank you. During your time at Fujitsu, how significant was the post office as a customer?
Well, Fujitsu was the post office was one of the larger clients within the private sector division and formed a reasonable part of Fujitsu UK and Ireland. But obviously, the further you go up the company, then it becomes a smaller part, but nonetheless important.
Thank you. Perhaps we could start with a presentation by your predecessor as CEO. If we could turn to FUJ 00116969. It is a business update that was produced by Roger Gilbert. You would have been managing director at the time that this was produced.
Okay.
It's coming up. Thank you. Do you recall this document from your time at Fujitsu?
I don't recall it precisely, but some of the things from reading it prior to arriving here today, some of the concepts in there I'm familiar with.
Thank you. If we scroll down, please, and over to page 3. Thank you very much. One of the objectives in 2011 seems to have been to increase the number of 30 million plus accounts. And we see there a chart separating out private sector and government. we see RMG, would that be the Royal Mail Group?
Yes,
And would the post office fall within that category?
it would.
So am I right to understand from this chart that, at least as at 2011, the Royal Mail Group was one of the biggest clients, one of the largest in terms of the amount of money?
Yes, it would. This was if I understand the chart correctly, this is accounts with revenues of more than £30 million per annum.
Yes, and they're a relatively small number. We see it separated out by private sector and government. So in the private sector, there aren't that many.
Yes.
And they're not in alphabetical order. Are we to read into that the Royal Mail Group was the most significant in terms of income, or is there some other reason, do you think?
I don't know the reason for choosing the order of those accounts. There would also have been one with Thomson Reuters there, which also would have been very significant at the time, but I don't understand the order of those.
Who were your main points of contact at the post office, both when you were managing director and then subsequently as CEO?
When I first joined, my main point of contact would have been the chief operating officer, who was Mr. Mike Young. Then when I was promoted to become CEO of Fujitsu UK and Ireland, then there would have been a number of people. I think Leslie Shule at some point, there would have been Ms. Venables, and for a period of time after that, there would have been also been Mike Young would still have been in the company for a period of time after I became CEO.
So was your liaison, your relationship when you were CEO largely with your equivalent CEO or perhaps COO?
I would say, no, but it wasn't that rigid from a hierarchical perspective. I would have spoken to the CEO and to other members of the executive committee.
Thank you. That document can come down. Can you assist us with the committees within Fujitsu that might look into risks arising from your relationship with the post office? What were the key committees that you would be involved in?
In terms of formal statutory committees, there was a corporate governance committee that I recall. There was also an audit and risk committee. And then there were a number, if you think about those being statutory committees, those were the two.
Thank you. And would the post office be a standing item on those committees, or would they just be raised on an ad hoc basis?
Well, the process of managing risk in the company was both top-down and bottom-up. So wherever there was risk, you would have expected those to be reflected on the risk registers.
And who typically sat on those committees?
It would have been the chairman of whichever statutory entity it was, and key members of probably of the executive committee, and I would imagine a member of the legal community as well.
Thank you. So likely a general counsel or equivalent would also attend those?
I think so.
Could we please turn to your witness statement on paragraph 73? It's on page 24. There's no need for you to turn to it. It should come up on screen. It's WITN 035-70100. Thank you. And it's page 24 that I'd like to start with. I'm just going to take you to two passages from your witness statement. The first is paragraph 73, and you say there, I recall being made aware of sub-postmasters' claims regarding Horizon's lack of data integrity shortly after joining Fujitsu. My understanding at the time was that these claims were unfounded. The post office had been involved in some proceedings against sub-postmasters, and that Fujitsu had assisted post office with these proceedings on occasion. I did not know the details of those proceedings. And paragraph 75, please, which is on page 27. If we scroll down just the next paragraph, please. Thank you. You say there, while I became aware of sub-postmasters' claims shortly after joining Fujitsu, I did not understand that Fujitsu was assisting post office in proceedings against its sub-postmasters on a regular basis until later. Indeed, I do not recall being aware that post office was being assisted by Fujitsu until at a meeting, Ms. Venables asked me to thank my team for its assistance with the prosecutions. I did not reveal that I was not aware of this assistance. I do not recall the date of this meeting. You started in 2009, you left in 2019.
Yes.
When approximately during that period did you become aware, first of all, that any prosecutions were taking place, that Fujitsu had a role in?
I think the word prosecutions is very specific, as I now understand, and I think probably around the time Ms. Venables mentioned it to me the time you just referenced a few moments ago. However, there is a document from 2009 when I first joined, which I think would also be quite useful to see.
Yes. Well, we'll go to that document, so I'm going to take you chronologically.
Okay.
But you say here, I don't recall the date of the meeting. So it seems as though it certainly became prominent to you at a meeting with Ms. Venables. And really my question is, when approximately would that meeting have taken place?
I can't recall when that meeting, clearly it must have been after Ms. Venables was appointed CEO of the Post Office, but I don't recall exactly when that meeting was.
Very approximate. We've got a 10-year period to cover.
It must have been around 2012 or 13.
Thank you. Do you recall when, if at all, the issue of prosecutions was raised at board level within your firm?
I'm not sure it was.
Not even until 2019?
Do you mean Fujitsu board in... I'm not supposed to be asking.
You assist me. I mean, at any level of the various boards that we've already heard about, do you think that prosecutions were raised?
I don't think so.
Let's go chronologically, and we're going to start with your first few months at Fujitsu. Could we please turn to FUJ 00174-184, please? We're going to start October 2009. Thank you. I'm going to start on the bottom email. Now, there is an email from Susie Kirkham. I believe she was the Royal Mail Group account manager at Fujitsu. Is that something that you recall?
I do.
And Gavin Bounds, can you assist us with who he is? Because we see his name on quite a few of these emails.
So Mr. Bounds was a senior executive who was responsible for the post office account. He was what was known as a business unit director and would have worked directly for me.
And what was your relationship with him?
I was his immediate line manager.
And in terms of your personal relationship, did you get on well? Did you have a free and frank exchange?
Yes, I would say so.
She says as follows: I have detailed below a brief summary of the sub-postmaster claim that Horizon fails to maintain the integrity of branch accounts if the branch experiences technical issues. Horizon has been running, and she produces a response. We can see, in fact, the subject is Horizon Data Integrity Publicity Briefing Summary. She says, Horizon has been running for around 10 years, during which time Post Office has had to handle a number of legal cases surrounding system integrity, mostly from apparently disgruntled or fraudulent sub-postmasters. Fujitsu has twice appeared in court to support Post Office. Only once has Post Office conceded its case, and this was at a time when the audit trails were too short to provide sufficient evidence to refute a sub-postmaster's claims. In recent weeks, a number of sub-postmasters are again querying the data integrity of Horizon and are claiming that they are owed money by the Post Office due to inaccurate branch accounts. These sub-postmasters are talking to the press, London News, and trying to gain some momentum to support their case. It's even rumoured that the BBC is considering a watchdog programme on the subject. Post Office is trying to head off this possible escalation of interest by preparing a stock of simple responses to possible questions from the media or from interest groups. I have summarised below the timeline that details when Post Office asked Fujitsu for assistance in compiling this information. She then goes on to give a timeline. And we see there the bottom two bullet points on the page. It refers to a conference And she says, during the conference call, the post office requested from Fujitsu a short paper to describe how Horizon maintains the integrity of the branch accounts when certain issues affect the branch. For example, blue screen, hardware failure, report requested to be given to Dave Smith by the 2nd of October. And then it refers to Gareth Jenkins. Just pausing there, was Gareth Jenkins somebody who you knew personally?
No, I don't believe I've ever met Gareth Jenkins.
Was he somebody who you ever emailed directly or corresponded with directly?
I don't believe so.
No. Fujitsu architects spent the best part of one day completing the report. The finished report was passed, and it gives the name, before being sent to Dave Smith. Report was sent to Dave Smith on the 2nd of October, late morning, just prior to the second conference call. If we could scroll down, thank you very much. I spoke to Andy McLean on the 5th of October, etc., and that's where it ends on the 5th of October. The final paragraph says, in summary, our body of evidence is mature, so we're well placed to help Post Office today, but when Horizon Online is installed in 2010, much of our existing material will become irrelevant, so allegations of system failures in the future may take more work in preparing evidence or explanations. So a body of evidence has been gathered and put together in order, it seems, to protect, to rebut or answer allegations of, for example, system failures. We see, if we scroll to the top of the first page, please, it's sent to you by Gavin Bounds, and he says, Duncan, a heads up in case questions from Roger and or the client. I asked Susie, our MG account manager, to summarise our involvement in assisting the Post Office rebut sub-postmasters' allegations made public of flawed data integrity caused by Horizon, leading to inaccurate accounts and thus monies owed. Please see below. Do you recall receiving this?
I don't recall seeing it. I remember some of the things from it, but I've largely relied on the document provided to me by the inquiry.
Relatively early on in your time at Fujitsu, do you recall somebody bringing to your attention concerns that are being raised by sub-postmasters about flawed data integrity caused by Horizon?
Could you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. Even if you don't remember this specific email, the general topic, complaints from sub-postmasters relating to data integrity issues and Horizon, was that something that you were aware of?
I must have been aware because I have this email in front of me, but it was not a topic of conversation in the meetings that I was involved with in my early days in Fujitsu.
I'm going to take you to, very briefly, to the report that's referred to from Gareth Jenkins in this email. That's at FUJ 30080526. This is the report that's referred to in that summary. It's entitled Horizon Data Integrity. It's produced by Gareth Jenkins. We see at the top there it has both Post Office and Fujitsu logos. Do you recall that being quite a common thing for both parties' logos to be placed on documents?
I think it would have been normal practice for whichever customer Fujitsu was engaging with.
Thank you. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see the date at the very bottom. It has there the second, this particular version, the 2nd of October 2009. If we turn over to page 5, please, it explains the purpose. This document is submitted to Post Office for information purposes only and without prejudice. In the event that the Post Office requires information in support of a legal case, Fujitsu will issue a formal statement. This document is a technical description of the measures that are built into Horizon to ensure data integrity, including a description of several failure scenarios and descriptions as to how those measures apply in each case. Were you aware that Fujitsu was providing information to the post office that related to Horizon data integrity?
I think I was generally aware that Fujitsu was assisting the post office.
Thank you. Page 7, we can see the scenarios are set out in this document. It says as follows: it should be noted that these scenarios are all to do with equipment failures, and these will always be visible to Fujitsu through the event logs which are retained. So it's not a document that in any way goes into what we know as bugs, errors, and defects. It only relates to equipment failures at this particular time.
Okay.
So this isn't a report that you were aware of?
No.
No. Could we please turn to FUJ 00156-064? Can I just clarify in relation to your earlier answer? Were you aware that Fujitsu was at least providing some degree of assurance to the post office with regards to the reliability of the Horizon system?
If I go to the email you showed me, the Susie Kirkham email,
Yes.
it is clear in there is some type of assistance being provided.
Yes. Relating to the Horizon system,
Yes.
and that is something that you would have been aware of in your early days, months as managing director.
And I think Mr. Blake, having that I clearly received that email, so I must have read that email.
Thank you. If we could start on page 2 of this document, please. The bottom email in the chain. This is an email from Susie Kirkham to Gavin Bounds. Now, this is the same substance, but it's actually slightly updated. So I think the first one that we saw was called I think it may have been referred to as a draft or something along those lines. It's clear that by the 7th of December, there has been some small amendments to that form of words. If we scroll down, please, over the page, you'll see that I took you to the bullet points before, and it was the 5th of October was the final bullet point, and there's now one more bullet point which says as follows. It says, I spoke with Dave Smith on the 3rd of December, and he mentioned that the data integrity issue had reappeared. It has been taken up by a Welsh MP who also happens to be a barrister. He is threatening to bring an early day motion in the House. Dave is meeting him in Parliament on Thursday, the 10th of December, but at this stage didn't feel he needed any attendance by Fujitsu. However, he was alerting us to the fact that this has reappeared. So in that timeline, amongst other things referring to the Gareth Jenkins integrity report, we're now told that there is an issue has been raised, not only, I think there was earlier reference to newspapers, but now also parliamentarians. Is that something you would have been aware of?
Could you just scroll back up, please?
Absolutely. Well, in fact, it may assist. If we go up a little bit more, we can see the chain. So it seems as though the same document, the same briefing has been sent to you again, the updated version, because you respond there on the 9th of December saying, okay, are you on top of this? So it seems as though you've been sent the updated version and are following that up.
Yeah.
Is that something you recall?
So I'm not sure I would have read the email. It looked like the previous email I've received, and then I reply all on here to ask, are they on top of it?
Yes. And could we scroll up, please? And I'm going to read you the rest of the chain. Anne Sinclair replies, copying or sending to you, and she says as follows, Gavin, I'll brief the press office. We should prepare an FAQ/statement to have in our back pocket if required. And I also want to explore doing some proactive work with them too. For example, getting some positive stories out there, building some bridges with journalists who might pick this up. And then above that, Mr. Bounds emails Susie Kirkham, and he says, Susie, can you liaise with Anne, please? And that's Anne Sinclair. Who was Anne Sinclair?
I think Anne Sinclair was the marketing manager for the private sector division.
Thank you. So within your division, you would have been her ultimate manager.
She had a dotted line to me and worked hard line to the UK and Ireland marketing leader.
Thank you. At this stage, you're now not copied into this correspondence, and I'd like to read the above two emails. So the first one, directly above, says, Anne, can we also have our press office hook up with the post office press office team on this too? I think this is hotting up, so we need to be in sync and both using aligned/supporting messages. Susie can facilitate your introductions here. And this is the response from Anne Sinclair, sent to Gavin Bounds and also Susie Kirkham. She says, Gavin, following discussions with our press folks and Susie on Monday, we have agreed that we need to downplay the situation as much as possible. We don't want to get too drawn into the debate as we are only a supplier. There is a document that addresses all the technical questions that was produced for the post office for a meeting with MPs last week. We should not contact the post office press office. If press contact us, we will send them on to the post office press office and not comment. We will flag to Grayling, our public affairs agency, to get them to keep their ears open for parliamentary questions, etc. We'll keep an eye on this, and if it looks like the situation is changing and or becoming higher profile, obviously we will review with you. Was that approach something that you knew about at the time?
No, it was not.
Was it something, as the managing director of Fujitsu, should have been run past you, that kind of a strategy?
Mr. Blake, I would say we put in place to run each of these businesses senior executives, and we expect them to be able to run their businesses accordingly.
And who is the senior executive that would be responsible for this kind of a policy?
The business unit director for Post Office was Mr. Bounds.
Mr. Bounds, Gavin Bounds.
Yes.
He would ultimately report to you.
Indeed.
But it's your evidence that in terms of this kind of a strategy, downplaying the situation, it would be him who takes the call on that, who makes the call on that.
Indeed. I mean, I'm not copied, so it's difficult to say what they're trying to downplay here.
The email to you, though, that additional bullet point that I took you to, brings in a member of Parliament is now concerned. Wouldn't issues such as that, so matters affecting the press, Parliament, wouldn't they be matters to raise with the managing director?
Probably. I'm not convinced I read that email because it looked exactly like the first email that I had received.
Yes. But it's clear that Anne Sinclair has read that email and come up with a strategy and discussed it with Susie Kirkham. Is that not something, given that it related to, for example, a parliamentarian, something that, involving one of your biggest customers, that should have reached your level?
I think it depends on the situation.
And looking at this situation, what is your view?
The situation from reading the email is that there are no hint in here that the data integrity issues raised are real. There's a reference that Ms. Kirkham makes in her email to say that we have a strong body of evidence, and there's a document produced to show how integrity is maintained in Horizon.
Yes. We also have London News being interested, a watchdog programme potentially on the horizon, and also an MP interested. In those kinds of circumstances, we have your evidence that it didn't ultimately go to you in terms of the strategy, but in terms of whether it should or shouldn't have gone to you, what is your view?
Depends on the situation. If the situation
I'm
is very,
telling you the situation.
if the situation's very, very serious and the team believes that they need my involvement in that, then I would expect them to escalate it. If they believe that there was no integrity issues, and that then, therefore, this is something at play in the media but has no substance, then there would be no need for me to involve me in that.
Thank you. I'm going to move on now to early 2010 and the Horizon Online pilot. In 2010, you were still managing director.
Yes.
Were you quite closely involved in the rollout of Horizon Online and the pilots of Horizon Online?
There were several accounts that needed my attention during that period when I joined as managing director, and Post Office was certainly one of them.
Yes, I mean, compared to, for example, being the CEO and your increasing role in wider regions,
Yeah.
when you were just managing director, just of the private company area,
Yeah.
would you have been relatively involved in the pilot?
Yes, I think that's fair.
Could we please turn to FUJ 3093031? We're going to see this is a review that took place of the integrity of, now we refer to it as Horizon Online HNGX. You're not on the circulation list, you're not an author, but I would just like to read some of the content to you and see if you were familiar. Are you familiar with this particular document at all, other than being provided by the inquiry?
I don't think I've ever seen this, but I can see it from information you've provided.
Looking at the circulation list, who is the person that you would have liaised with the most out of all of those people? Or perhaps who's the most senior of the distribution list?
Maz Kostouche is probably the most senior person on that list.
And did they have a direct line of reporting to you?
I think Maz did at that time, yes.
If we scroll down, I'm just going to read you a few paragraphs. So it begins with the terms of reference. Following the occurrence of a transaction being duplicated on the HNGX branch database, Stuart Rye and Paul Roberts were asked to review the counter-application architecture and design and ensure that it fully supports the need to protect the integrity of financial transactions. The scope is focused on the integrity of the counter-application in relation to financial transactions captured at the counter. It does not extend to data migration or other transient issues caused by the switch from Horizon to Horizon Online. Background: the objective of the Horizon Online program is to develop a system with structural and operational characteristics that substantially reduce ongoing support and maintenance costs with respect to the current Horizon system. So just pausing there, were you aware that one of the objectives, or a key objective of Horizon Online, was essentially to save costs in the everyday operation?
Yes, I was.
Thank you. A key component of Horizon Online is the counter application. In reference to the Horizon counter application, the online version retains the operational data, e.g. reference data, and business logic, but transactional information is stored directly in the data center. I'll take you to the next paragraph. It says it is currently in pilot with 12 branches. So by this time, 9th of February 2010, it was only in 12 branches. Mm-hmm. On the 28th of January 2010, the data reconciliation service process detected an error in a banking transaction. Subsequent investigations revealed that the branch database had two transactions with different journal sequence numbers, but the same session sequence number for a specific counter on that day, but the third-party banking system only had one transaction. The clerk did not know that a duplicate transaction had been created. So reading that, it seems as though the person operating the Horizon platform wouldn't have known that there was this error. An analysis of the database has revealed one other occurrence, again in Derby, but on a different day, also involving a different clerk. This had not been detected by the Data Reconciliation Service, as it did not contain a banking component, and there is no other business reconciliation which might have spotted it. The net effect would be that the post office and the branch records would not match. Where this happens, the post office investigates the branch and postmaster with a view to retraining or even uncovering fraud. It would seriously undermine post office credibility and possible historic cases if it could be shown that a discrepancy could be caused by a system error rather than postmaster/clerk action. More importantly, the central database as the system of record would be called into question. Were you aware in broad terms of issues cropping up in the rollout that had the potential to call into account the accounting integrity?
No.
Were you aware of the potential for an issue with accounting integrity to affect, as we see there, post office investigations?
No.
Again, as the new managing director, why wouldn't this have been brought to your attention?
I don't know. What I do know is other issues were brought to my attention during the rollout, but this was not.
And reading that final paragraph, that is quite a significant paragraph, isn't it?
It seems to be.
Both for your relationship with the post office and also in relation to those complaints that we had heard about in that earlier correspondence.
So my understanding, Mr. Blake, is this is about HNGX and not about Horizon.
Yes. Irrespective of whether this relates to Horizon Online or what we know as Legacy Horizon, the statement that is contained in that final paragraph is quite significant, both for your relationship with the post office, but also for individuals, any individuals who are, for example, investigated by the post office.
Oh, without question, yes.
Could we turn to FUJ 30943992? If we start on the bottom email, please, and if we go over the page slightly, we can see that this is an email from Jean-Philippe Prenevost. Were you aware of who that was?
No.
So he was legal counsel, it seems, within Fujitsu, so internal lawyer. He emails Alan Dalvarez, and he says as follows: "Hi Alan, further to our discussion on Friday, please find below the two comments I had raised." And this is commenting on the document that we've just seen.
Okay.
And he says as follows: first paragraph, page 2, "The following section is potentially problematic." And he quotes there, "It would seriously undermine post office credibility and possibly historic cases if it could be shown that a discrepancy could be caused by a system error rather than the postmaster/clerk action. Most importantly, the central database as a system of record would be called into question." So that's the bit that I just took you to. And he says as follows: "As discussed, there's no need to paint this in the worst possible light. I would suggest the following as being accurate without being unduly alarmist. If it could be shown that a discrepancy could be caused by a system error rather than a postmaster/clerk action, it could potentially call into question the effectiveness of the central database as a system of record." Quite significantly changing the meaning of that sentence. Do you agree with that?
Yes. I've not seen this document prior to being shared by the inquiry, but...
Yes, you're not copied in. If we scroll up above, there's an answer from Mr. Dalvarez, and he says as follows: "After review with legal, see email below, 2 amendments have been made to the documents, and in both cases, the sections referred to have been removed, as they do not materially add to the primary purpose of the review, which is to determine whether the solution as designed would protect data integrity. As I say, you're not on this email chain. Were you aware of a sensitivity within the business about these issues?
No.
Again, would it surprise you as managing director not to be aware of these sensitivities?
With hindsight, yes, but it was not shared with me at the time.
And looking at the recipients here, who would you have expected to have shared it with you?
So it's largely from what I can see, I don't recognise all of the names, it's largely a technical team. I would say probably Maz Kostouche, as I said before, is the most senior person.
Were they on any of the kinds of committees that we've been speaking about?
Not to my knowledge.
Could we please turn to FUJ 001742990? And it's the bottom email I'd like to take you to. We're still with the pilot and rollout of Horizon Online. 6th of April 2010. Thank you. So it's the bottom half of page 1, please. Mr. Bounds sends you a list of issues arising at that time. He says as follows: Duncan, the new post office CEO, Dave Smith, started today. Mike Young mentioned before he went away that when the new CEO arrived, he would likely be reaching out to Richard in his first few days in the role. By way of a briefing for Richard, please review the following. Horizon Online pilot was progressing well and moved into day 1 of high volume pilot, so we're now going to 215 branches. On Thursday, the 25th of March, 208 branches were successfully rolled out, a good outcome. And then it says, then began a catalogue of outages/issues as follows. And it has a table of different issues. For example, the first one we see in that middle column, 2 Horizon Online service outages affecting all branches. If we look at the bottom entry there, there's reference to a client meeting. The client stated at a meeting on the 1st of April that they would not allow high volume pilot to move ahead until A, they had seen the findings of an independent report on our CS operations, giving them assurance that we were correctly resourced and had our events reporting under control, and also that fixes were deployed for various issues. We see on the right-hand side of that, if we scroll up slightly, that in terms of the report on the operations, you now have underway a report that's being written by somebody called Rachel Dacker. I think you've said in your witness statement that she wasn't independent in the sense that she wasn't external to Fujitsu. You chose to pursue that internally.
That's right.
And what was the reason for that?
My understanding is the post office account team wanted to bring in someone with experience in Fujitsu who was independent of the team that was deploying Horizon Online. And Rachel was you can see here, the operations director for our retail business unit.
Thank you. Number 3, there's reference there to Belfast data centres suffering a power surge. And then we come to a list of things that are to be moved to red alert. Can you assist us with what red alert was, please?
As I recall, red alert was an internal process that account teams could engage with to bring more of the company's resources to bear on a particular issue they were facing.
And there's reference there to 2 major incidents, one with Horizon network banking issues, another with MoneyGram issues. And below that, we also have other major incidents. Debit card authorization agent failed in a resilient pair, Horizon network banking issue, proxy radius server issue affecting ISDN sites. And I just want to read to you the paragraphs, 2 paragraphs below. He says, the above reflects the significant issues we've experienced over a short time span. Just pausing there, were you aware of those kinds of issues being experienced in relation to the rollout of Horizon Online?
I would have been aware of, I think, most of these issues.
Relationships with the post office leadership are tense, and we're clearly on the back foot. Dave Smith, as in the CIO that has just retired from the post office, takes with him a maturity of approach and first-hand experience of the original rollout of Horizon. His counsel to Mike Young and the post office ET was, that's executive team I think, was that there were many large issues back then and that these should be expected now. Were you aware, we've had a whole phase looking at the original rollout. Were you aware of significant issues during the original rollout of Legacy Horizon?
No, I was not. Not at this time.
It looks as though Dave Smith was trusted because he had experienced the first rollout and was likely to be more accepting of issues this time round. Was that your understanding?
I'd never met Mr. Smith.
No. I think this was an email sent to you. Did you have any thoughts on that at the time?
No, I did not.
The reference to relationships with the post office leadership being tense, what was your understanding at that time?
I think that's about right. We were in the middle of a major rollout. That rollout was already significantly delayed, and then we have all of these technical issues.
And then it says, however, we do have a strong supporter in Andy McLean, the Post Office Service Director. Whilst not pleased with where we are, he advocates a logical, cooperative ethic to overcome issues and is concerned by some of the more emotional reactions he is seeing within the Post Office. What did you understand by emotional reactions?
Well, had I have sat in the shoes of either a sub-postmaster impacted by this or on the post office side, when the rollout is in progress, I would have had a similar emotional reaction to it.
Dave Smith from Parcel Force started today and has met with the Horizon Online post office team. Our contacts tell us that he is likely to take a more cautious stance towards restarting the pilot. The National Federation of Sub-Postmasters will not allow any more of their members' branches to be migrated to Horizon Online for the time being. The likely way forward is that the Post Office will look to deploy Horizon Online to all their Crown offices first to prove the system works and persuade the Federation to continue. So it seems as though there were real tensions at this point about even whether Horizon Online was going to be rolled out to various sub-postmasters around the country.
So I would agree with there were significant tensions. I think the question was, at what point do you roll out Horizon to the 2 branches, as opposed to do you only partially roll out the new version of Horizon?
Was that ever a threat from the post office, though, that they wouldn't proceed full stop with Horizon Online?
So I remember meetings and correspondence with Mr. Young, and certainly from documents provided by the inquiry, that Mr. Young did raise the view with us that he would rather cancel the Horizon Online program and he would go back to the previous version of Horizon. He did not want his operation messed up.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to take you to that correspondence now. Could we start with FUJ 30-95628, please? And we'll start on page 2. Thank you. There's an email from yourself to Roger Gilbert and Gavin Bounds, and you say as follows: I spoke to Mike Young on Friday morning. He was in good spirits but remains very concerned about Horizon Online. And Mr. Young has made 2 points. The first is the programme was reviewed at group level with Mike Young, Dave Smith, and the group legal counsel and FD discussing options. The legal counsel admitted they have few levers to pull, but want some reassurance. The group input was based on the issues and experience that they had with CSC. Are you able to assist us with CSC?
That would be Computer Science Corporation, now known as DXC.
Thank you. Mike gave a balanced view of Fujitsu, good relationship, excellent track record of stability, positively engaging with Post Office, and made a difference to the business making its numbers last year. However, he has doubts about our ability to wrestle the program to the ground, and they remain worried about the later releases of the software as they relate directly to the Post Office's ability to grow revenue. His words to me were that he has pressure on him to consider a plan B. Now, is plan B what you were talking about before, that potentially they may pull the plug on the whole thing?
He never made that clear. It was, I would say, a threat that was left dangling in the air.
Their confidence has been knocked due to ongoing issues with Oracle stability, the data center outage, the outage caused by Fujitsu operator error last week. Mike has asked for the following. 1. Based on advice from Group Legal Counsel, Mike feels he wants some assurance that the profit and loss for the account is sustainable over the short and long term, so they can see we can invest and provide the resources necessary to get the problems fixed. This will look like some form of an open book arrangement. What do you understand by open book arrangement?
For Fujitsu to reveal every last cost item that there is assigned to the program, and I think to the whole account.
2, he wants an independent review of the processes, tools, and resource on the program to assure themselves we are genuinely up to it. 3, finally, he wants Dave Smith to have some dialogue with, I think that's Richard Christou, so they
Yes.
can test the Japanese board's commitment to the account and program. A conference call or video conference would work. My view is it will be difficult, based upon where we are now, for us to resist 1 and 2, although there is some risk in those areas. So your the initial discussions have taken place, and your initial view is that, in fact, those first 2 would be difficult to resist. So the open book and the independent review. Is that right?
That's fair, yes.
And if we scroll up, please, to the first page. The very top of that page, please. We see an email from Guy Wilkerson. Who was Guy Wilkerson?
I think he was a hybrid legal commercial person on the Post Office account.
He says, in his responding there to Vince Fullwood, who I think has forwarded the earlier email chain, he says, as discussed, this isn't really a great surprise, and I'm sure we'd be doing the same thing if things were reversed. As they suggest, they're not entitled formally to an open book review, in my opinion, but this would be a confidence measure rather than a contractual arrangement on their part. They're hypersensitized to the stability issue. He then refers to the open book review, wasting a lot of time, and it's this final sentence that I want to ask you about. He says, an independent review will throw up all sorts of detail issues that can only delay the program. Were you aware internally of concerns about carrying out an independent review at this stage?
So this is an independent review of the accounts financials, Mr. Blake, if I read this email correctly.
Why do you think it's limited to that? I mean, if I take you to the discussion, in fact, I'll take you to the actual correspondence,
Okay.
Mr. Young, so we can look at that. But do you recall any reluctance to carry out any form of independent review at that stage?
So I should be clear. My understanding of this, it was an independent review of the program and not of data integrity, which I think is important as I understand this correctly. And then in terms of our concern, the concern would certainly, in terms of open book, would have been another opportunity for Post Office to try and reduce Fujitsu's fees or costs into them, which was a consistent theme of the conversations between the two organisations. The other risk, I think, for us at the time was the most important thing to do was resolve the Oracle issue. And diverting resources from the programme then into an independent review might have reduced their focus on what was the most important thing, which was the successful rollout of the HNGX programme.
Let's look at the subsequent correspondence between you. It starts at FUJ 30956558. And this is a letter to you from Mike Young, 10th of May 2010. I'll just read to you a few passages. The second paragraph starts by saying it was recognised during this review process that our relationship with Fujitsu is of long standing, has thus far proved fruitful to both parties and continues to play a pivotal role in the successful delivery of Post Office's products and services. But he then goes on in the next paragraph to talk about his requests in relation to the Horizon Online programme. He says, we would very much like to see the executive correspondence within Fujitsu related to the recent red alert. This, we feel, would give us an understanding of how the executive management within Fujitsu are aware and responding to some of the problems we have seen in rollout. So one of his requests is a bit more transparency from Fujitsu. The second, he says, additionally, we would like you to consider bringing in a qualified independent party and asking them to review and audit how the current programme is being run. And this last half of the sentence is important in the context of what you've just been saying, as well as testing resource and skill levels, both on the programme itself and other key initiatives that we have underway with Fujitsu. So it's both looking at resources and skills of those who are running the programme as well as the overall programme itself. Is that right?
That's fair.
Yes. And then your response is FUJ 30963112. If we start on page 2, please. Thank you. This is your response to that letter. So thank you for your letter. It starts 3 paragraphs down. It says, since your letter, I'm extremely pleased with the progress that has been made. We have located the source of the troubles and taken steps to rectify the issues, and we now have recommenced the pilot. Next paragraph. The cause of the issues that delayed high-volume pilot was deficiencies with the Oracle product code, and you've explained a lot about the Oracle issue in your witness statement. I'm not going to deal with that today. You say at the end of that paragraph, at this crucial phase of the programme, we can see no benefit and will not be pursuing a third-party review. So you are rejecting the proposal for an independent review at that stage.
Yes, it is. And my understanding is between Mr. Young's letter and this, that between Post Office and Fujitsu, there had been an attempt to agree a review with a third party, but it had not come to conclusion.
And was that because of concerns within Fujitsu that a independent review would, in the words of Mr. Wilkinson, throw up all sorts of detail issues that can only delay the programme?
I don't believe so.
What was your belief as to the reason why an independent review at that stage was not to be agreed to?
So during that period, I think you have 2 things. There's about 6 weeks period of time-ish, you might correct me, where between Fujitsu, Post Office and third parties to agree a scope and terms of reference. And that was not possible during that time. I think the other thing, Mr. Blake, is by time that this letter goes back from me to Mr. Young, it's clear what the real issue with the programme was. And the real issue with the programme was the Oracle code, which has since been fixed.
You then continue in this email. You will have seen the tremendous effort from Fujitsu. Thank you for your offer of assistance over Red Alert, but that's now been lowered, etc. So effectively trying to close off the issues that Mr. Young has raised in his letter. Is that a fair description, or to say that they have already been addressed or don't need addressing?
I think that we have taken measures to address the concerns around the programme, including the DACA review during that period of time, and that we're now back. And it was clear the real issue with this is the Oracle code, and that's now resolved, and we're able to deploy deploy into high volume rollout.
Could we turn to page 1, please? And we have his response. He says, "It won't surprise you to learn that I'm somewhat disappointed that it took so long to formally reply to my correspondence of the 10th of May, and with the apparent sea change on approach to some of our concerns. As my letter intimated, these areas of concern were brought to the fore in a Royal Mail Group review of the current Horizon contract. My understanding from our weekly calls was that you had taken advice from KPMG as to how you could go open book with us and therefore didn't foresee a problem in doing so. On the issue of having a qualified independent party audit to evaluate Fujitsu program execution along with staffing levels and skill base, I have been briefed that you have spoken to several entities to pursue this endeavour. Indeed, I was told that you were close to agreeing terms with one of these. Additionally, in our calls, you will recall, I'd asked whether there was a possibility of the Post Office owning the terms of reference, and again, this was something you were going to strongly consider. As it stands now, I feel I've been led down a journey on a number of months, just so that you can now say no. This doesn't reflect well on our relationship and will not be well received in the next review. I have, as a matter of course, been keeping the Post Office executive and the group executive aware of the progress I was told we were making in these areas." Just pausing there. The evidence that you've given in relation to your response was that things had changed, problems were over by then, and that they weren't necessary. It seems to have come as quite a surprise to Mr. Young. Were you aware of that?
I think, well, you can see from his email to me that he is disappointed that we have, at that point, pushed back on his requests.
There seems to be somewhat of a gulf between you as to whether matters are resolved or not resolved.
Oh, I would say, Mr. Blake, the matters were resolved because the programme at that point was back up and running. And as I said, the key area that was causing the issues in the programme here was the Oracle software code.
And he continues, "It's now even more imperative that my managing director gets a view from the Japanese board on just how they feel this relationship is progressing. We would like to see if the meeting between Dave Smith and Richard can be brought forward to a date closer to the current August date. In the meantime, can I suggest you and I get together in person sometime next week and talk through where we are?" Were matters ever raised with the Japanese board along the lines proposed here?
My understanding is Richard was aware of the issues we were facing with Post Office and was supportive of a meeting with Mr. Smith and Mr. Young.
And are you aware of that taking place?
I vaguely recall that it did.
Could we please turn to FUJ 30962238? If we scroll down, please. Thank you. We can see Andy McLean. Who is Andy McLean?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. He is emailing Gavin Bounds and raises issues with costs that are being incurred by the overrun. And if we scroll over to the first page, we're in the same time period, but we're actually slightly back in time now.
Okay.
We're on the 18th of June. This is American format, so
Okay.
it should be 18th of June 2010. And it's from Mr. Bounds to you. And he says, I'll be sending this to Andy McLean at the post office later today. And it's headed without prejudice. And he says, for example, we're greatly encouraged by the recent restart of the rollout, and we're hopeful the program will now move forward to a successful and uninterrupted conclusion. Despite this, it's acknowledged that getting to this point has caused us to move beyond the period covered by the last arrangements made regarding the schedule. And like you, we would like to discuss this to ensure our financial position is clear. I just want to read you that penultimate paragraph there. He proposed to say, I have had confirmation from Duncan regarding his and Mike Young's conversations. Unfortunately, no such agreement was reached. Just to be clear, while I can sympathise with the intention behind your suggestion, Fujitsu is not contractually liable in any way. Any measures agreed without prejudice would have to be very carefully considered. So you know such a precedent, if set by the Post Office to its sub-postmasters, might make Post Office liable for compensation to sub-postmasters in all future cases where the service is interrupted. Just pausing there, it seems though you've had a conversation with Mike Young about potentially providing some sort of compensation or money to those sub-postmasters who were affected by problems in the rollout. Is that right?
So my understanding is that Mr. Young and I had a conversation where we left with different views of the same conversation, and Mike was under the impression that we would pay compensation directly to sub-postmasters.
Yes. This draft being sent on a without prejudice basis, looking at this and looking at the earlier emails that I've taken you to, it seems as though in June of 2010 things were quite bad between yourselves and the Post Office, potentially leading even to litigation. Is that your recollection?
I don't know if at that time it would have been as tense as earlier on in 2010.
So there was a worse time in 2010.
The early part of 2010 was difficult for both organisations and for sub-postmasters.
And again, is that due to issues during the rollout,
Yes.
technical issues affecting sub-postmasters?
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's an appropriate time to take our first afternoon break.
Okay.
If it could be for 10 minutes, please.
Yeah.
What time is
So where does that take us to?
it? 10 to 3, please.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Tait, just to summarise where we're at, we went to documents in 2009, and I think the position was that you recognised that there were complaints from sub-postmasters relating to integrity, and that you were broadly aware of those, albeit not necessarily paying much attention to the particular emails that I took you to. Is that right?
I think that's fair.
And then 2010, we've seen issues with the pilot and the rollout, and tensions between the Post Office and Fujitsu in respect of that.
That's also true.
Could we please turn now to FUJ 00174-378? We're still in 2010, but now we're in the summer of 2010. 22nd of July 2010, so a month after the documents that we were just looking at. And you sent an email from Gavin Bounds to yourself and others entitled Channel 4 documentary next week regarding Post Office and our Horizon system heads up. And it says as follows: Post Office has just informed us that they are commenting back to Channel 4 on a documentary to be aired next Friday regarding the plight of a few sub-postmasters who have claimed that Horizon, our system, was the cause of financial irregularities that led to them losing their jobs. This appears to be related to Horizon and not HNGX, and also are not related to the service interruptions we experienced during March/April. Post Office will send us the comments they have made tomorrow. Verbally, Post Office have confirmed to us that these cases are known to them and they see no cause for concern. In case we are approached, as usual, we should refer all questions back to the Post Office PR team. Do you recall receiving this email?
I do not.
Do you recall in general terms there being a Channel 4 documentary in July 2010?
I didn't watch it.
Do you recall there being a documentary at that time, learning about it around that time?
I received the email, Mr. Blake, so I must have been aware at the time.
Mr. Bounds, he wasn't a technical expert at Fujitsu, was he?
No.
Could we please turn now to FUJ 001561995? Very similar time. We're now on the 5th of August. And if we scroll down to the bottom of page 2, please. Thank you. We have an email from Roger Gilbert to yourself and Mr. Bounds, asking for yourself and Gavin to provide a brief on what follows below. Can you assist us with who is on the distribution list below, please? Where they are, which office they're in?
Sure. So Mr. Kamata was essentially Mr. Christou's chief financial officer. Brian Harris, I think was at that point would have been was previously Richard's CFO and was now in some type of business assurance role. I don't know who Matsuzawa-san is, Mr. Matsuzawa.
So are they based in the Japanese part of Fujitsu or based in the UK?
I think at that point, Mr. Kamata would have been based in London. Mr. Harris would also have been based in London. I don't know where Matsuzawa-san was. And the other Japanese people, I don't know. It looks like they were based in London.
Thank you.
Roger Gilbert was my boss in London. Steve Clayton was, I believe, Roger's CFO based in London. Richard Christou at that point was probably on his way to Japan, already being in Japan. And Philip Oliver, I believe, was also based in London.
Thank you. And the author says, although it's not clear if we're involved in this matter at the moment, I would like to work with Roger and his team to clarify what's going on. This article has already been picked up by Fujitsu Tokyo. We'll scroll down and see what the story is, but when it says picked up by Fujitsu Tokyo, typically how would that happen?
I guess Fujitsu Tokyo would either have picked up something in the media or would have been informed by Fujitsu in Europe, or very occasionally a customer might have written directly to senior executives in Japan.
If we scroll down, we can see that it's a news article. Post Office faces legal action over accounts IT. And it refers there to Accountancy Age. So it says Accountancy Age has learnt a group of sub-postmasters have joined together to bring legal action against the Post Office. Court papers are expected to be filed in the coming weeks. The action originates with the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance and is over the use of Fujitsu accounting software made for the Post Office by Fujitsu. A number of sub-postmasters have lost their positions over alleged accounting irregularities, while some have also faced fraud allegations in the courts. but the sub-postmasters claim the errors in the system in software are to blame. If we scroll down to the bottom of that page, it says the JFSA has expressed concern that the accounts of many sub-postmasters have not been examined for up to 8 years, which it believes would highlight the system's problems. At the bottom of the page, it says allegations about Horizon first appeared in October last year when 30 sub-postmasters came forward. And then it has at the bottom, in our view, so that's in Accountancy Age's view. If we scroll down, please, to the bottom of the page, in our view, rarely has there been a more pressing need for a forensic accountant to audit an accounting system. With a high court battle on the cards and various smaller courts around the country all calling for an audit, the Post Office now faces compelling claims to undertake a serious audit of its IT. The argument is becoming almost impossible to ignore. If we go back to page 2, please. Just below that, we have the CEO of Fujitsu sending this to yourself and to the COO, Gavin Bounds, asking for a brief. And then we have on page 1 the brief. And I'm going to take some time to take you through this email. So Mr. Bounds has sent it to you. Roger, Duncan, so to the CEO and to yourself. Summary, no cause for immediate concern. This is the latest in a long line, even preceding automation of articles and or challenges to the Post Office regarding its accounting systems. And he sets out the Fujitsu position. Post Office owns relatively few of the actual Post Office branches in the UK, most of the branches being effectively franchises. Postmasters are mainly paid based on the number of transactions of each type that they perform. Post Office takes a fairly firm stance with any accounting discrepancies to prevent fraud, but there is a steady stream of court cases and almost weekly stories in the minor or local press covering these cases. Fujitsu is obligated to support Post Office where requested to do so by either providing system information to support the cases or in some cases expert witnesses to testify as to the measures within the system to ensure that the data being relied on is as originally entered. This has been going on for a number of years with little incident. As reported in the article, recently accused sub-postmasters have become more organised, and a case in West Byfleet is being used to test potential arguments. That's the prosecution of Seema Misra.
Yes.
We have been providing information and an expert witness at Post Office's direction. The outcome so far is understood to be that neither Post Office nor Fujitsu has been found to be at fault, although the judge has left open the possibility that there is an error. If there is an error anywhere, it is only likely to be in the processes which are Post Offices. The Defence Counsel is currently using this to request further system information, but the general view is that he is fishing for problems rather than having any particular proof of error. Next paragraph. Post Office is handling the case and all communications with the public. Post Office's position, validated yesterday and today, is that they are not going to respond to this article on the basis that Accountancy Age only has a small circulation, although they are also aware that it is on the web. Their view is that if they respond to every article on this topic, it only adds credence to the claim. Post Office also stated that they're confident that the integrity of the Horizon system is secure. They will always investigate every case that is raised by the sub-postmasters, and to date, they've never found the system to be flawed. If necessary, Post Office will fight each individual case through the courts. In all formal responses to the allegations, Post Office never mentions Fujitsu unless they are asked to provide an expert witness. I just want to read you this final paragraph. They did recently issue a private statement to Channel 4, so that's the Channel 4 program that was mentioned in that earlier email, which they withdrew a program they were planning on the subject. So the Channel 4 notification on the 22nd of July seems to not have taken place. It seems to have been withdrawn. This is included below and has been released to us on the basis that we do not circulate this beyond those executives with an immediate need to know. And this is the private statement that was released to Channel 4. As discussed, here's a copy of the statement that was sent to Channel 4 News the other week. I'm happy for you to use this in order to address the concerns of your executives in Japan. Just pausing there, do you recall concerns being raised by executives in Japan at this stage?
So I don't know. I'm assuming this refers to the Japanese people referenced in the email or in communication to the post office. I don't know.
Did you at this stage have any communications with executives in Japan about media?
I didn't, Mr. Blake, but my reporting line was through to Mr. Gilbert, then he reported to Richard Christou, and Richard Christou was on the executive committee of Fujitsu in Japan at that time.
However, I need to ask that this doesn't get circulated around Fujitsu or appear in any way in internal publications. This is because Channel 4 didn't run the article, so our statement hasn't been publicly released. And their statement said, virtually all UK's 12,000 post office branches operate entirely professionally using the Horizon system without any accounting discrepancies and without accumulating abnormal debts. And it is clearly in the interests of both our customers and the vast majority of sub-postmasters that in the very few instances where there is evidence that the finances of a branch are not properly managed or where money goes missing, Post Office Limited must fully investigate and take necessary action, including legal action in the last resort. The decision to prosecute is not taken lightly, and in every case where action had been taken, no court has found evidence to believe that the Horizon system's integrity to be deficient. Just pausing there, we're now in August 2010. By that stage, were you aware that Post Office was prosecuting sub-postmasters based on Horizon data?
Yeah, I'm not sure I was.
Even on receiving this?
Even on receiving this.
I'll read to you the final paragraph of that statement. They say, we are continuing to upgrade the system to make sure it meets the growing demands of the financial services products provided by today's post offices. Whilst implementing changes will inevitably have caused some inconvenience, it has not in any way affected the integrity of the system, which is fundamentally more accurate and less open to abuse than the old-fashioned paper-based system it replaced. Finally, Post Office Limited does not publish details of prosecutions or of sub-postmasters. And Mr. Bounds continues. He says, it's also worth noting that Horizon is due to be retired and replaced by Horizon Online in the next month or so. This is primarily for cost-saving reasons and was not driven by any technical problems with Horizon. This is unlikely to prevent similar investigations into the replacement system at a later stage. So, bringing everything that we've been looking at together, within your first year at Fujitsu, you were aware of complaints from sub-postmasters relating to Horizon integrity, correct?
Yes.
You were aware of publicity in trade magazines and in other articles as well?
Yes.
You were aware of Fujitsu providing some support to the post office, albeit unclear the extent of that support.
Yes.
It didn't register with you that that included prosecution support at that stage, is that right?
Also true.
And I think in your witness statement, you've said that you only vaguely recall this particular issue. Is that right?
That is also right.
Given that it's been picked up by Fujitsu in Tokyo, given all of the detail that we see here, why do you think it was not a significant issue on your particular agenda?
Because if I go back to the emails when I first joined the company, it's evident from the Chief Operating Officer of the Post Office, that he says Horizon is great, stable, and the users have nothing but praise for it. You can see that in some of the documents you provided for me. The Susie Kirkham note is clear that that Fujitsu has a strong body of evidence. There are no integrity issues. And then when you get each of these events, like the Channel 4 program you referred to and this, it's made clear by senior executives inside Fujitsu, and I think also, and I've said from the customer, that there is no issue.
In quite a few places in your witness statement, you rely on assurances from the Post Office that there aren't issues.
Yeah.
Isn't that looking at it from the wrong way round?
No, I don't believe it is.
We saw, for example, in 2009, Gareth Jenkins providing that Fujitsu integrity report. So there's certainly information going from Fujitsu to the Post Office to reassure them about the integrity of Horizon. So isn't saying Post Office didn't raise any problems, isn't that the tail wagging the dog?
My view, Mr. Blake, is system integrity relies on two fundamental components. The first one is that the supplier must do their utmost to make sure that system works and to monitor it accordingly. And at the same time, it is the responsibility of the customer also to take seriously the issues that are raised by their customers. And when you put those two things together, as it did for the vast majority of customers that I engaged with, that worked. So it is the responsibility of both organizations to make sure that this system works and to engage with each other genuinely and openly when there are issues.
And in terms of your organization providing that reassurance, where were you getting that from?
Well, I was getting that up the line. But if I take a step back, so I could have been made aware of integrity issues in a number of ways. So our governance processes, through escalations up through the line, either the technical line or the business line that reported to me. And I was getting blanks from each of those particular lines where I could have been alerted, or more to the point, I was being given a reassurance.
Who by?
Well, you can see some of the names we've discussed so far that have been referenced in the documents so far today.
We'll look at more, but let's say at this stage, who in particular are you getting reassured by?
Well, I'd say so far, principally, you can see two people. You can see Mr. Bounds and you can see Mr. Young.
So Mr. Bounds from the Fujitsu side, Mr. Young from the Post Office side.
Yes.
Could we please turn to FUJ 00174417? We're now in February 2011. You're still managing director. You haven't yet become CEO at this stage.
That's right.
An email from Mr. Young to yourself and also to Stephen Long, and it says, guys, I need you to take a look at this if you haven't seen the program already. And he forwards you the link to the Inside Out South program. And he says this, undoubtedly, Horizon integrity remains a core to our safe operation, and to date, nothing has surfaced that suggests there is any evidence that the system is flawed in any way. Can we briefly just talk through these latest developments? Now, first of all, guys, quite an informal, close relationship, it seems.
I'm not sure I would call my relationship with Mr. Young close in a chummy way, and you can see from some of the documentation this morning that it was the opposite of that at times.
By this time, it seems... Who was Stephen Long? Can you remind us?
So if my memory serves me correctly, at this point, Mr. Bounds has moved off the Post Office account post the successful deployment of Horizon Online, and is doing another role inside the private sector division, and he has been replaced by Mr. Stephen Long.
Thank you. The Inside Out South report is the Nick Wallace report, where it begins with looking at Seema Misra's case, so the case that we've already seen referenced in that email. She was in prison at the time, has her husband crying in that program. It then moves on to Joe Hamilton's case, and interviews her. Complaints about your product, the Horizon system. Also interviews with parliamentarian James Arbuthnot expressing his concerns. I think you've said in your statement that you don't recall watching that programme. Is that right?
That is right.
Again, the managing director of a company that provides a system that is at the centre of the complaints, linked to a BBC article. So not just now a small trade magazine of any sort, a respected national broadcaster.
Yes.
Why is it that you wouldn't have looked at that?
I think it's in that the paragraph just underneath the link to the iPlayer in the second paragraph, in the second line, you can see. Well, sorry. Let me read. Nothing has surfaced that suggests there is any evidence that the system is flawed in any way. And Mr. Blake, this isn't from someone relatively junior in the post office. This is the chief operating officer of the post office.
But the reporting is about your product. How is it that you don't have curiosity about what the BBC are saying about your own product, irrespective of what the client is saying?
Mr. Blake, I think I showed curiosity in my job day to day, and had this have had a sense in here that I should have dug further, after being reassured now on several occasions there were no issues. This does not tell me, Duncan, you need to look further, you need to take a deeper look into this. Particularly, I'm being reassured by a very senior customer.
We saw at the very beginning that chart that showed the important customers for Fujitsu, the £30 million plus customers, a very small number of customers. Was there regular reporting about your other customers that's critical of your product?
I would have issues raised to me quite regularly, and depending on how they came to me and my assessment then from what I saw, I would intervene. I intervened during this period of time, personally, on a very serious issue with Thomson Reuters, which meant that we ended up between the two of us cancelling our agreement. I remember another issue with a customer where there had been one issue in an account balance in about 10 years that was escalated to me. And that was one issue in 10 years. And we resolved that issue within about 3 weeks.
And had those been raised by Computer Weekly, you being a computer firm? Had they been raised by the BBC, the national broadcaster?
On the second example I gave to you then, no, it hadn't, because the customer had spotted the issue with an account balance and brought it to Fujitsu's attention. On the first matter, I believe that the Thomson Reuters issues were in certain trade press but I can't recall.
And here we are, the BBC having an entire episode dedicated to the cases of sub-postmasters, including one who was currently in prison. On reflection, was that not a link that you should have pressed? Not just in hindsight, but simply knowing what you knew at the particular time.
I wished I had looked at this. It might have given me a different perspective. But at the time, both through the line through to me, and the line from the customer to me, and our business assurance systems, there were no red flashing lights that said I should get involved any more than I did.
And do you not see that as a lack of curiosity at this time, given that you were sent that link?
No, because of the sentence that's immediately underneath the link.
I'm going to take you to some documents that are around the same kind of time so that we can see what was going on at Fujitsu around that time. Could we start with FUJ 30s81527? So this is the 11th of February. And it's a report that has been written by Gareth Jenkins on what is known as the receipts and payments mismatch bug. Introduction. The purpose of this note is to document a request we have had from Post Office in terms of presenting details of what happened as a result of a bug in Horizon Online in September 2010, which caused a receipts and payments mismatch and also resulted in discrepancies being lost. Just pausing there, before you made a distinction between issues relating to Legacy Horizon and Horizon Online, now we have an issue with Horizon Online.
Okay.
Rollout has taken place by this time. The background to this is the fact that there was a BBC documentary broadcast on Monday, the 7th of February 2011, reporting on postmasters being unhappy about being pursued for losses by postmasters on Horizon. It should be noted that the issues described here relate to Horizon Online and that the implementation of the accounting mechanisms in the two systems is totally different, but they do produce the same reports and support the same business process. If we go over the page, there's a summary of what the receipts and payments mismatch is. The first bullet point says, there will be a receipts and payments mismatch corresponding to the value of discrepancies that were lost. Note that if the user doesn't check their final balance report carefully, they may be unaware of the issue, since there's no explicit message when a receipts and payments mismatch is found on the final balance. And then 3 bullet points. The local suspense will have no knowledge of this specific discrepancy. The opening figures for discrepancies in the new period will be 0 rather than the actual value of the discrepancy. And third, the data used for the BTS will also have a 0 value for discrepancies at the end of the period. When the BTS is produced, this will result in a similar receipts and payments mismatch. And at the bottom of the page here, it says, the problem appears to have affected 62 branches and details have been provided to Post Office Limited of all the BTS and SU rollover reports for these branches until they were clear of the issue. Looking at this, it seems as though certainly Fujitsu were aware of a bug that affected accounting integrity in 62 branches. Would you accept that?
Yes.
Was this something that you were aware of at the time?
I was not.
Could we please turn to poll 3028838? This is an earlier report from 2010 on the same issue, the receipts and payments mismatch issue. Can you assist us in terms of the attendees? Were there any there who were sufficiently senior to report to you?
No.
We can see, for example, Mike Stewart, Fujitsu SDM. Can you assist us with what the SDM might be?
That, I believe, stands for Service Delivery Manager.
Thank you. So none of those people would report to you. Would they in some way be in the reporting line to you, though?
This is in 2010, I think you were saying. No, the way Fujitsu UK was structured then was that the technical resources worked for outside of my line. So they reported, there were 2 divisions that I think were relevant to Post Office. There was the applications division, and there was a division called Core. These were all the technical and the monitoring people who run the services. They're based in those 2 divisions. I run private sector, and those 3 divisions report directly to Mr. Gilbert. So the technical people would not report to me until I was made CEO of Fujitsu.
So up until April 2011, they wouldn't report to you, but by April 2011, they would all report to you.
That is true.
Yes. This is detailed in the other note that I've taken you to, the later note, but I'll just go through a few points in this, and it's a document the inquiry is very familiar with. What is the issue? Discrepancies showing at the horizon counter disappear when the branch follows certain process steps, but will show within the back-end branch account. This is currently impacting 40 branches, so in 2010 it was only 40 branches, and then the number seems to have grown on investigation.
Okay.
Could we go over the page, please? Impact. The branch has appeared to have balanced, whereas in fact they could have a loss or a gain. Our accounting systems will be out of sync with what is recorded at the branch. If widely known, could cause a loss of confidence in the Horizon system by branches. Potential impact upon ongoing legal cases where branches are disputing the integrity of Horizon data. It could provide branches ammunition to blame Horizon for future discrepancies. If we scroll down, we see there various solutions that are proposed, and one that the inquiry has looked at in quite a lot of detail is that first solution, solution 1, and that was alter the Horizon branch figure at the counter to show the discrepancy. Fujitsu would have to manually write an entry value to the local branch account. Impact. When the branch comes to complete next trading period, they would have a discrepancy, which they would have to bring to account. Risk. This has significant data integrity concerns and could lead to questions of tampering with the branch system and could generate questions around how the discrepancy was caused. This solution could have moral implications of post office changing branch data without informing the branch. Now, this is the 2010 document, and we've also seen the 2011 document.
Yes.
As managing director in 2010 or as CEO in 2011, would you have expected that the receipts and payments mismatch issue would have been brought to your attention?
I would expect discrepancies of this nature to have been raised up the line inside Fujitsu, yes.
And would you have been expecting them to be raised along the line to you?
Yes.
And is that both in 2010 and in 2011?
Yes.
Why do you think it was that it wasn't raised with you?
I do not know. And it looks, and Mr. Blake, if I can just make sure I understand the document correctly, this also looks like this is post office personnel on here as well as Fujitsu personnel.
That's correct.
And that could have triggered an escalation, either up the customer organisation or up the Fujitsu line.
Yes. And doesn't appear to have.
No.
We're still looking at exactly the same time period. Could we please turn to FUJ 00156-432? So you'll recall the receipts and payments mismatch document from Gareth Jenkins was the 11th of February 2011.
Yes.
The first one that I took you to. I'm going to sticking to the 11th of February 2011. And we have there another report that has been drafted by Gareth Jenkins. And this is in relation to an ongoing court case. And it says, I've been asked by Post Office Limited to produce a report to technical experts report to the court prepared by Charles McLachlan, a director of Atmosphere Consulting Limited, which I received on Thursday, the 11th of February 2011. Now, I think it's your evidence that you had no idea at this time that that was going on, that Mr. Jenkins was assisting in court cases, providing evidence, responding to, in this case, an expert's report.
Yes.
That was the case of McHugh. Could we please turn to poll 00329-433? We're still on the 11th of February. It seems quite a busy day. Poll 00329-433. This is an a letter, produced by the Criminal Law Division of the Royal Mail Group to a defendant in a criminal case. So that's Miss McHugh, Carlisle Crown Court. As you are aware, when the matter was last before the court ordered a final defence expert report, etc. If we go down to the bottom of the page, it makes clear in this letter that although the prosecution and defence experts have endeavoured to produce a joint report, this cannot be agreed. So the experts have produced their reports and they're in disagreement about the Horizon system. Could we please turn to FUJ 001564443. We're still on the 11th of February. I'm not suggesting you saw this particular document at all. This is a Post Office correspondence or Royal Mail correspondence. Again, more Royal Mail correspondence, this time in the case of Humphrey. Same date. The letter says as follows: both defendants pleaded guilty on the 11th of December 2009. However, the calculation of the total loss was disputed, and the case proceeded to a trial of issue. And that finally came before the court, and it outlines there the sentence that was imposed. So Mr. Humphrey was sentenced to 27 months imprisonment. Mrs. Humphrey was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. And if we scroll down, please, we can see in the letter, the lawyer from Royal Mail says, this is another case where Horizon was challenged, which resulted in a considerable amount of additional work by Gary Thomas. His efforts, together with those of Gareth Jenkins, Fujitsu, are evidenced by the successful outcome in this case. So it's very clear that on the 11th of February, or on or around the 11th of February, there is direct assistance from Fujitsu in relation to criminal prosecutions. And I think it's your evidence that you weren't aware of that.
That is also true.
Could we turn to FUJ 0015350? This is all, I mean, even this email, the end of this chain is the same date, the 11th of February 2011. So this is still while you are managing director of the private part of Fujitsu,
Yes.
with Post Office as one of your main clients.
Yes.
If we please turn to page 3. Back to the 7th of February, so the day of the BBC broadcast. This is Penny Thomas. Did you know Penny Thomas?
No, I did not.
No. She, if we scroll down, was a security analyst at Fujitsu. She is emailing colleagues. If we scroll up, we can see to Gareth Jenkins and others. We've already seen Jean-Philippe Prenevost's name. I think he was a lawyer. Do you recognise any of those names at all?
I think the only name that would have been somewhat familiar at the time would be Guy Wilkerson.
And why would his name have been familiar?
I think he was based in London.
Penny Thomas says as follows. She says, there was an interesting article featured on the local radio station, BBC Surrey, this morning, and I listened while travelling to work. Misra, a convicted sub-postmistress, now pregnant and serving a jail sentence in Bronzeville Prison for theft and false accounting from the West Byfleet Post Office, and 55 other sub-postmasters/mistresses are planning to take civil action against the Post Office because of the flawed accounting system used at the Post Office outlets. There are to be 6 test cases. South Warnborough was identified as one. There was an emotional interview with Devinder Misra, the husband, who stated that the system was losing money right from the very beginning. They couldn't find the problem, and neither could the auditor who was sent from the Post Office. A spokesman for the Post Office stated that the Horizon system was absolutely accurate and reliable at all times. Robust testing procedures have been undertaken. Jonathan Lord, MP for Woking, is concerned and will ensure a full financial investigation, absolutely independent, is carried out. He stated that the process which the Post Office employed where discrepancies arose should be fair and conducted in a prompt and proper way. These Post Office procedures are to be looked at closely. If we scroll up, we can see that Jean-Philippe Prenevost has sent that on to David Jones, who was the head of legal at Fujitsu. Is that right?
I think the head of legal at that time would have been David Roberts, and Mr. Jones would have reported directly to him, I think.
Thank you. And he says, further to Penny's email below, we've been informed that the Post Office are making noises about commissioning an independent evaluation of the Horizon system, with a view presumably to putting all integrity issues to bed once and for all. The team is not at all inclined to accept this request, especially bearing in mind that the system is now defunct, but they have sought official guidance on how they should be dealt with the request, how they should deal with the request. Given the link with ongoing/potential litigation, are there any particular issues you would be concerned about and would like to raise at this stage? So Penny Thomas from the security analyst has heard the BBC report.
Yeah.
Were you aware, I think you said you weren't even aware of the report other than the link being sent to you, is that right?
That is right.
Were you aware at this stage of the Post Office making noises about commissioning an independent evaluation of the Horizon system?
I was not.
Is that surprising, given that you were the managing director of a division where Post Office was one of your key clients?
Well, I had regular meetings with Post Office, as I think the inquiry can see, and I would have imagined they would have brought that up with me.
Is it strange that a lawyer within Fujitsu would be aware of that, but you would not be?
I don't know, Mr. Blake. You'd have to ask them.
If we scroll up, please. Email from David Jones saying, hi, have you looked at the contract and our security service obligations? I expect there'll be some cooperation obligations. Who is making the request from the Post Office, and is it at the right level of engagement? We scroll up above. Hi, David. The suggestion, I understand it has not been officially requested, has come directly from Mike Young, the highest level of engagement. We are, of course, aware of the contractual obligations, and as this does not form part of them, the team would be more interested in any other considerations. So it seems as though the request has come directly from Mike Young. He was one of your direct liaisons, wasn't he?
Yes.
So how is it that you were not aware of that at this time?
I don't know.
I mean, something seems to have gone fundamentally wrong at Fujitsu for this level of information not to be provided to you, hasn't it?
I would have expected Mike to come to me or the then leader of the Post Office account from Fujitsu with that request.
And is it likely that he did go to the leader of the Post Office account and it simply hasn't, for some reason, been raised with you?
There is a possibility of that, but I just don't know.
If we scroll up, the response is, you are aware that we have or had a banking indemnity in place that would mean, if I recall it properly, that if the outcome of the investigation were adverse, that Fujitsu might have some liability to the Post Office. So pausing there, as managing director, would it not have been important for you to have been aware that potentially Fujitsu was on the line for some liability in respect of these issues?
I think our view, certainly my view, would have been if there was an issue with the software that's causing account balance issues, which then leads to people being prosecuted, it didn't matter what the consequences were, we should have got to the root cause of that.
And why, as at 11th of February 2011, do you think that wasn't happening?
I do not know.
Then he raises clause 16, which 16.3 says Fujitsu services shall offer all reasonable assistance to Post Office in preventing fraudulent use of the services, the HMGX development, the associated change development, the Horizon service infrastructure, and the post-shop infrastructure by post offices' employees and agents. Surely this means we can't refuse their request in any event. So it certainly looks though within the legal team they think that if the post office are requesting an independent investigation, you couldn't refuse that request. If we scroll up, there's just discussion of whether or not that means that the Fujitsu can refuse.
Okay. Mr. Blake, I think around this time, if I may, I was also involved in a negotiation with another customer that did involve Fujitsu exiting an account and cost about £38 million. It was the right thing to do for both the customer and for Fujitsu. It generally takes a more rounded view to come to a conclusion than a purely legal view.
And what is the relevance of that?
Well, the relevance of that is that where there were issues, Fujitsu faced up to them.
But it seems, from your account, you weren't aware of the issues.
I was not aware of this.
I mean, we've seen article after article after article. How can it be that at this stage you weren't aware? What went wrong?
It is difficult to it's difficult to say for me to comment. We had good governance in place. We had good open lines of communication with the customer, where the opportunity to escalate up and down the organisation. So difficult for me to say.
And you've got here people who were actually involved in the prosecution of sub-postmasters. So we've got Gareth Jenkins, Penny Thomas, all in this email chain, all aware of the BBC reporting. So they had been involved in Seema Misra's case, as an example.
Right.
How can it be that somebody from that team didn't raise it up to the managing director?
I do not know how it did not come to my attention, nor up the other line to the then CEO Fujitsu, or to Roger's attention either.
We've looked at a lot of correspondence from the 11th of February. I'm going to stay with the 11th of February, and I want to look at correspondence that was actually going to Paula Venables at the post office.
Okay.
So could we start with FUJ 00174418? And all this is the covering email. You've seen the draft letter to Paula Venables. You address it in your witness statement.
Okay.
FUJ 00174418 is simply a covering email from Charles Matcham, who was within your division, is that correct?
Yes, he was.
Draft letter to Paula. Needs work, but you get the idea, and it's sent to you and others. And then I'd like to take you, so that's the 11th, same day, 11th of February 2011. So the same day as all of these other things that I've been showing you were going on. Day when Gareth Jenkins wrote those 2 reports that we've seen.
Yes.
Day when there's various discussions going on about an independent investigation being carried out and whether that has to take place. The day when Royal Mail is drafting memos about success being down to, amongst other things, Gareth Jenkins' efforts from Fujitsu. Let's look at the draft letter. That's at FUJ 00174419. Dear Paula, I thought the timing was appropriate to write to you and inform you of our plans and objectives for the account and take the opportunity to introduce the 2 senior executives appointed to support your business and lead on behalf of Fujitsu. Continues, I won't read it all, but perhaps we'll look at the paragraph that begins back in August 2010. I attended a video conference with your predecessor. Amongst other important matters, a paper previously submitted to David was discussed and endorsed. The brief document set out the principles of working jointly to explore the mutual benefits of developing our existing Horizon online contract to ensure future alignment to Post Office strategic plan. So discussing potential future avenues of business. Yes. Fujitsu has proactively invested in the development of a compelling proposal through a dedicated team working out of our Centre of Excellence in Slough. Our intention is to present our proposition to you in early March and gain your agreement. To facilitate this, Fujitsu has assigned 2 senior executives, and then it goes into or proposes that a brief summary of their experience and expertise is set out. And if we scroll over the page, you can see it's been drafted in your name. I think you say in your witness statement that you recall sending a letter along these lines.
I do.
Yes. The focus in that letter is on future work together, isn't it?
It is.
There's nothing in there about recent press reporting of the type that we've just been seeing.
I agree.
There's nothing in there about complaints from sub-postmasters about accounting integrity or anything along those lines. Is that right?
That is right.
Nothing in there about prosecution support.
That is also right.
Could we please turn to poll 000-17555? And I'm sticking now with what you might call general picture at the time. You're not copied into this email. This isn't something you would have seen at the time. But just to see the kind of work that on the 14th of February, so a few days later, Gareth Jenkins was involved in. We're still on the case of McHugh. And he is referring to the expert reports. And he says, that is the information I've given to Charles about Calendar Square. Were you aware of the Calendar Square bug at this time?
No.
I've not sent him anything further since it's irrelevant to this case, as he accepts. However, his point is that if we had an accounting discrepancy in Calendar Square, then that implies that it is possible to have an accounting discrepancy in Rinkfield, which is the particular branch.
Okay.
I have to accept that that is possible. However, the Calendar Square issue as such is irrelevant in Rinkfield, and this is accepted by Charles. So an acceptance there by Mr. Jenkins that the bug in Calendar Square is essentially relevant insofar as it implies that it's possible to have an accounting discrepancy elsewhere, even if that particular bug is not the one in play.
Okay.
Okay. But these weren't issues that you were in any way aware of in 2011.
You are right.
Could we turn to poll 000-17555? Sorry, actually, I'm going to move on to, so you became CEO in April of that year.
Of 2011, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Blake, I'm getting a bit anxious about when the second break
Yes,
is.
that is actually a convenient time, so
Yeah.
we could take it now.
No, yeah.
Could we come back just before 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Maybe, 3 minutes to 4, please. I need those 3 minutes, if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tait, I'm going to move to 2012, so about a year into your time as CEO. Could we please look at FUJ 00168511? Thirteenth of April 2012. Gavin Bell, who is, I think, a member of the client executive team, is that right?
Yes.
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 He has met Paula Venables on the train and spoke about a number of points. And it's the third point that I'd like to draw your attention to. He says she then asked about some of the recent systems incidents and transaction integrity. I've provided a very high-level response of how the reconciliation service we provide catches any issues, and offered her and Leslie Sewell a visit to Bracknell to meet the team. She then went on to say that she has had inquiries from Oliver Letwin MP and James Arbuthnot about system outages and a freedom of information request on a particular sub-postmaster. She said she might invite Duncan to a meeting with these MPs when she meets them next. Do you recall that within that first year of your time as CEO, the key client was raising issues to do with Horizon integrity?
If that question, Mr. Blake, is do I recall this conversation with Mr. Bell? I do.
Yes. And did that make you take any additional steps? I mean, we've heard that no investigation had taken place at Fujitsu up until that point. Did that trigger any particular investigations?
Again, I think if you read the second sentence in that paragraph, it's provided a very high-level response about how the reconciliation service catches any issues. So I think from reading that sentence, that doesn't say to me that we need to take any further investigation.
But if your key client raises in that particular conversation issues with transaction integrity, was that not something, given all the history we've been through already, something to look into a bit further at that stage?
If Mrs. Reynolds was not satisfied with Mr. Bell's response to her questions, I believe they were on the train, then she could have come directly to me.
Could we turn to FUJ 00168-523? We're still in June. We're in June 2012. At the bottom email, please. Urgent, Post Office, BBC. You email Simon Carter. Who is Simon Carter?
By then, I believe Simon Carter would have been the head of marketing for Fujitsu UK.
There's an article on BBC regarding Post Office and concerns over the Horizon system. It's an old allegation, which I believe is totally false. However, it's on the news. Can you alert the IB? What was IB?
That was the Fujitsu was split essentially then into Japan and outside of Japan, and the bit outside of Japan was called International Business, or IB.
Can you alert the international business and Japanese teams, please? I suggest we ensure we're aligned with Post Office press team, and also should have a draw statement ready to go. Draw statement, is that suggesting not something new but a standard statement?
I think it is a pre-prepared statement is the way I understand draw statements.
It's an old allegation which I believe is totally false. Did you at that point instigate any new investigations internally?
Well, I don't believe as a result of this, no.
That's another BBC report, national report on Horizon and integrity. I'm going to take you to another report 6 months later. Could we please turn to FUJ 00174576? News summary, if we scroll down, sticking to that page, Wednesday, the 2nd of January, Computer Weekly. Post Office admits the Horizon system needs more investigation. Years of struggle from campaign groups has forced the Post Office to look again at a computer system which has been blamed for sub-postmasters being wrongly accused of false accounting. Despite numerous complaints, the Post Office has consistently stated that there is no fault with the Horizon system, but sub-postmasters claim problems with the technology could be generating unexplained losses. We see at the top of the page, please, an email from yourself to Helen Lamb. Who was Helen Lamb?
Helen Lamb, at that point, would have been running a division called Business and Application Services, which is where the Horizon code would have been run out of.
Helen, what's this poll stuff about, please? Do you recall the answer to that?
I don't recall the answer. I vaguely recall sending the email, but I don't recall the answer.
In your statement and today, I'll read a few passages from your statement.
Okay.
You know the evidence you've given today, but you said, for example, I received repeated assurances, Post Office was confident, internally and Post Office reassured you.
Yes.
We've seen here article after article, mentions of members of Parliament, BBC, Computer Weekly, you being a computer company. Did you ever, in that period, seek to investigate whether there were any substance in those reports? A significant investigation, not just reassurance from an individual.
Yes. Mr. Blake, I'd go back to what I said before, that when I joined, I had the Kirkham email that stated no issues. The email from Mr. Bounds after his meeting with Mr. Young that said Horizon was great, stable, and the users only had praise for it. And then when each of these media events happened during 2010, early 2011, you can see in those, in each one of those, it is no cause for concern, no cause for immediate concern, no flaws in the software from Mr. Young's email to me in early 2011. It would have been unusual, I think, to have conducted further research at that point when you had that level of reassurance.
But why would the national media be so wrong about it? I mean, it's like Groundhog Day. It's year after year after year, exactly the same thing comes up. There's a national report about Horizon integrity, and all there is an email with a line that says everything's okay. Why wouldn't you, as managing director and then CEO, not actually put in place a significant investigation into that issue?
Mr. Blake, we had good governance in place. We had delivery assurance in place. We had assurance teams to govern new customer opportunities and the extensions of Horizon over time. We had audit and risk committees in place, and each one of these could have brought to the attention of the Fujitsu CEO prior to me and during my period that we needed to do something about it. Now, with hindsight, we absolutely should have done something about it because the media were absolutely spot on.
Could we please turn to FUJ 00168649? That summer there was a meeting with Paula Venables. Detailed below is a readout from the meeting between Duncan and Paula last night. I don't need to take you into any detail in that. I mean, there's no mention there of Horizon integrity issues. Is that likely? Is that your recollection of those kinds of discussions you had with Paula Venables?
Yes, what you're saying is true.
Again, it's very much focused on new initiatives, looking forward, rather than looking back at past problems.
Pretty much. I think in the operations section, you can see that Paula praised the high quality of our operational performance. So that is a here and now comment, not about the future.
Thank you. Could we turn to FUJ 00174662? And this is the briefing note for that meeting. There's a section on business as usual operations. If we scroll down, new initiatives, scroll down, CSR. There's a section on risk over the page, priorities and then risks. Nothing in the risks section about issues with Horizon integrity or complaints from politicians or the media. The only point in this that relates to those kinds of concerns is the very bottom. We can see at the bottom of the page there's reference to second sight. A number of queries have been raised, all of which have been answered, no irregularities identified. One allegation is proving more challenging, relating to a suggestion that alteration to the branch database holding sub-postmaster balances could be made on Fujitsu premises, so that's the remote access issue. We've been asked to provide further details related to systems, controls, access, and audit records for balance corrections. This will be available next week. So again, no significant issues being raised in that meeting. Do you recall any meeting between yourself and Paula Venables at which serious issues relating to complaints from sub-postmasters or relating to the integrity of Horizon were raised?
The time I recall would have been when Ms. Venables said that she had had complaints around integrity and would have to commission an independent review.
And what was your response to that?
Well, this goes back, Mr. Blake, to what I said would have happened with other customers, that if they had concerns over integrity, that would have been a very sensible thing to do. And that, I mean, I don't recall the exact details of the conversation, but the Fujitsu would provide assistance as necessary.
Could we turn to FUJ 001747008, please? It's the bottom of the page. We're now in July 2013. And there is a report from your meeting. It says, Duncan met Paula Venables this morning to discuss the role of Horizon in the Post Office's future strategy and the IPR issue. As part of that, Duncan shared the contents of his brief, including Horizon is an invested and stable platform, very low cost. Second Sight has shown it to be safe, secure, benchmarked. We have an industry littered with disasters of service outages, programs taking twice as long as planned with massive costs where organizations have replaced systems. There was quite a lot of discussion around this, and Paula said, that all sounds good, but why did my team tell me that working new reference data through the system takes a long time and the platform is not agile? And then it sets out some responses. Just pausing there, do you recall ever giving bad news to Paula Venables about the integrity of the Horizon system, or bugs, errors and defects with the Horizon system?
I don't think any of my briefs gave me data that would have pushed back on Ms. Venables in that regard. I think you can see, Mr. Blake, in other conversations that Ms. Venables and I had, that they were robust.
As robust as the system? When you say they were robust, I mean, look, let's look at that penultimate sentence. I'm not sure if this is a difficult task or not. As you all appreciate, we have to respond to this with some urgency, and the story needs to be good. The suggestion being that one of your most important clients needs to be told a good story, and that there is some reluctance within the company to share bad news. Was that something you experienced or not?
No, we had very robust conversations between the two organisations. And my understanding this here refers to the agility of the system.
We can see the response, that's at FUJ 001747121. Paula, thank you for taking the time to meet me on Thursday. This is 8th of July. Overnight pricing changes are now possible. We also have made good progress opening up Horizon. And then I'll take you to the final paragraph. As I followed up on the questions you raised, it became evident to me that close collaboration between our teams is working well. Horizon is evolving at pace to better position the post office for enhancing agility and growth. Therefore, it might be worth organising a briefing for your key executives on Horizon's new capability and planned enhancements. It's again looking to the future and what can be achieved from Horizon. Given all the things that we've discussed, all those newspaper articles, media reports, why do you think it is that we don't see those kinds of matters being raised in depth and discussed between you, real concerns, you reassuring Ms. Venables, for example, about issues of system integrity? Do you think those exist, those emails?
I don't know, Mr. Blake. Can I just check the date of this exchange?
This is the 8th of July 2013.
8th of July 2013. Okay. But on the second site investigation is up and running at this time.
Yes.
And I have, the previous month, had an email from a James Davidson that talks about the initial findings from Second Sight. And it is another reassurance for me about how Horizon is working.
But these are all external assurances. Nothing within Fujitsu, nothing has been set in train within Fujitsu to investigate those various complaints, and nothing being passed from you to Ms. Venables about reassurances regarding the system. I mean, let's look at the response. If we turn to FUJ 00174-724, 8th of July. This is the response at the bottom that's been sent on Paula Venables' behalf. The series of emails that the inquiry has seen to date are all looking at small improvements, perhaps, looking at future work together, but there doesn't seem, certainly from what we've seen so far, to be any detailed correspondence between yourself and your equivalent at the post office about these Horizon integrity issues. Is that, do you think, because they don't exist, or because we haven't yet seen them and they do exist? What is your recollection of this period of time?
I don't believe there is email correspondence between Ms. Venables and I regarding integrity issues, but I don't know.
And what about the media reporting and those issues that are raised there, complaints from sub-postmasters? Do you think that was ever discussed in depth with your, with Ms. Venables?
I don't believe that was discussed between me and Ms. Venables.
And the various emails that we've seen today about bugs, errors, and defects, you've said you weren't even aware of them, let alone being able to pass those on to Ms. Venables.
I agree.
Two very quick topics. The first is prosecution support.
Before we get there, Mr. Blake,
Yes.
the 8th of July, actually, Mr. Tait, is the date that Second Sight published its interim report. Was that sent to you on or about that date?
I've never seen the report, only a feedback from members of my team based upon what post office personnel I think Ms. Shule had given them.
Right, all right, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Blake, carry on.
No, not at all. Prosecution support. Did you know that Fujitsu provided what we know as ARQ data, audit data, to the post office?
Not until after I left Fujitsu.
What was your understanding of the role of Gareth Jenkins while you were at Fujitsu?
I was not aware of Mr. Jenkins' role while I was at Fujitsu.
Could we turn to poll 00382242, please? This is a post office document, so I don't expect you to have seen this document, but it is a brief for a meeting with yourself on the 11th of November 2013. I believe you've only seen it very recently. It's the final page I'd like to take you to. And the last two paragraphs. Were you aware of something called Project Sparrow at the post office?
I don't believe so.
And within this brief, it says the Post Office criminal law team needs to find an independent expert to give evidence about the Horizon system, which was previously provided by Fujitsu's Gareth Jenkins. Leslie and Susan Crichton have raised this with Fujitsu. The legal team have a meeting arranged with Fujitsu to discuss this requirement. This will happen on the 21st of November. Following this, we will have a better understanding of Fujitsu's view, any impacts, and what the next steps will be. First of all, do you recall a meeting on the 11th of November 2013?
I don't know. I do remember at the time where we had an issue with this home phone and broadband contract that was causing a great deal of tension between Post Office and Fujitsu.
And do you recall, I think you've said you don't even recall any issues with Gareth Jenkins. Do you recall at a meeting anybody raising with you the need for a new independent expert?
I do not.
Remote access, and I can deal with that very briefly. You address it at paragraph 102 of your witness statement. I'm not going to turn to that. When did you first become aware of the ability for Fujitsu to remotely access sub-postmasters' branch accounts?
So, like I would say, in systems like this, having a facility called remote access or privileged access would have been necessary because problems can occur in systems like this that will need fixing. So I'd say generally aware from when I first became involved in Fujitsu.
Could we turn to FUJ 00174422? I'm just going to take you to two documents from 2011.
Okay.
This email is the 1st of June 2011. Do you recall in 2011 Ernst & Young recommending a review of what was called privileged access?
I recall Ms. Venables asking me for our organisation to take action against the EY audit in preparation for her next board meeting.
So we have, in this email that's sent to you, the audit referred to in Mike Young's mail was part of the annual audit carried out by Post Office, on Post Office by Royal Mail Group auditors, Ernst & Young. It sets out the main points. It says, in general, Ernst & Young was satisfied with the robust user management processes for HNGX system access. However, observations were made of the user management processes, specifically with regard to the segregation of duties between developer and system administrator roles. It was recommended that a review of privileged access is undertaken and that the process around user management are strengthened. You in your statement, you then refer to another document. I'll just take you to that. It's FUJ 00174428. And it's a reference to a meeting with Paula Venables. It says for info, if we scroll down slightly, it says, DT is meeting Paula Venables and Mike Young on the 18th of August. The agenda is the Ernst & Young audit. It was a key challenge for Ernst & Young to audit a shared service generally. We were really proactive in helping them through this. You recall having a meeting with Paula Venables to discuss this issue?
I'm not sure I do, but I do recall Ms. Venables raising the EY audit with me and asking Fujitsu to resolve the issues prior to her next board meeting.
And I think you say in your statement that you tasked Mr. Bounds with this, is that right?
Yes.
And were you aware of that review actually taking place?
The EY review or the
No,
consequent Fujitsu review?
the consequent Fujitsu review.
My understanding is that that review and the actions were put in place and successfully executed.
Who do you recall carrying out the review?
I do not know who conducted the review.
Did you see the review once it had been completed?
I did not.
Did you check to make sure that it had been undertaken?
I did.
You did?
I believe so. I would have managed this by exception, and if Mr. Bounds or the team had had issues, then they would have spoken to me about it.
So is it likely that there will be a document in existence that is, around this time, reviewing the issue of privileged access?
My understanding is there should be some documentation that shows Fujitsu taking action based upon the EY report, though I'm not sure I've seen it, Mr. Blake.
Thank you. One final document, it's poll 3024828. And if we could start on page 5, please. The inquiry has seen quite a lot of correspondence about the issue of remote access in 2014, 2015, and we can see on page 5 a response from 2014 that had been provided by Fujitsu, and the summary is set out just below. In the first, I'll just read out the first bullet point, and that's a summary of Post Office's understanding of the position based on the responses that have been provided below from Fujitsu. There is no ability to delete or change records a branch creates in either Old Horizon or Horizon Online. Transactions in both systems are created in a secure and auditable way to assure integrity and have either a checksum or a digital signature, are time-stamped, have a unique sequential number, and are securely stored via the core audit process in the audit vault. Were you aware of a dispute between the Post Office and Fujitsu about the information that Fujitsu had given relating to remote access?
I was not.
And if we scroll up, we can see there's an email, an internal email within Post Office. So again, you wouldn't have seen it. It's page 4, the bottom of page 4. It's an email from Jane McLeod to Andrew Parsons, who was an internal lawyer to external lawyer. And she says as follows. Separately, Paula has suggested that she speaks to the UK CEO of Fujitsu, Duncan Tait, and my suggestion would be that she alerts him to the fact and timing of the response letter. This is a response letter in the litigation.
Okay.
Notes that the question of remote access is still a live issue, a major concern to the claimants. Notes the work being undertaken by Deloitte to review access rights and controls. Expresses the desire that Fujitsu continue to work constructively with Deloitte, and flags that if Deloitte work uncovers a different position to what Fujitsu and Post Office have publicly stated over the years, and we will need to consider carefully how to manage the impact. Okay. Did a conversation ever take place with Paula Venables relating to remote access?
I've no recollection of that conversation.
Were you aware at all of the issue of the Post Office placing blame on Fujitsu for giving an incorrect answer in relation to the issue of remote access?
Not to my recollection.
My final couple of questions. The litigation more broadly, were you aware of Gareth Jenkins's role in the civil action, the group litigation?
No, I was not.
Did you ever have any discussions with anybody about whether he should or should not be, for example, a witness in that litigation?
I did not.
Had you experienced Fujitsu employees being concerned about being used to give evidence in that group litigation?
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Tait. Those are all of my questions.
Thank you.
There are 10 minutes of questions for Mr. Steen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tait, I'm going to take you to a document which is FUJ 000 80526. And can we go straight to page 5, please, of that document? Thank you. Now, this document is dated the 2nd of October 2009. It's drafted by Gareth Jenkins and titled Horizon Data Integrity. Okay? It's a document we know you're familiar with as you dealt with it, as you were asked to look at it by the inquiry, and you refer to it at page 13, paragraph 36 of your statement. Okay? Now, this document had a circulation list that included Susie Kirkham. You've mentioned a couple of times. She's someone that when you came into your role, she drew to your attention the fact that there were issues that were ongoing in the press in relation to claims about the integrity of the Horizon system. Okay?
Okay.
And we also know it's a document that is shared between between Fujitsu and the Post Office. All right. Now, this document, I'll summarize it. At no part of this document is a mention of software bugs, errors or defects. It pretty simply says things along the lines of, if you turn off the system and bring it back on, what happens? It is very technical in that sense.
Okay.
It doesn't deal with software issues or bugs. Now, did you notice that when you read through this document after it had been brought to your attention?
So, Mr. Dean, you're right. I only saw this in preparation for the inquiry. And it seems to be quite a technical document that describes how integrity is ensured in Horizon online, but had no other recollection than that.
Right. Well, take it from me, it doesn't refer to software bugs. Now, your background work has been in relation to IT systems. Do you agree? Some
Yes.
time ago, but that's what you've done in the past. Now, all large-scale systems, such as Horizon, have software bugs, don't they?
They do.
Right. And in relation to the Horizon system, Fujitsu operated a service line at 4 levels. Part of those levels were to do with the fixing of software bugs, issuing patches, notifying the post office of those bugs as it went along. Do you agree?
I agree.
Right. So why do you think that this report from Mr. Jenkins does not mention bugs?
I have no idea, Mr. Steen. I think it would be a question for Mr. Jenkins.
Right. Well, let's go to the mismatch bug document, please. The document's familiar to this inquiry, POL 000028838. And can we go to the bottom of page 3 of that document? Can we have a look? Thank you. Solution 1. Can we just refer to that, please? Now, you'll see it's being said here that there are 3 potential solutions to apply to the impacted branches. And then the recommendation is that solution 2 should be progressed. Now, this is a joint meeting, as you pointed out to Mr. Blake, between the Post Office and Fujitsu, all right?
Yes.
It's not, as an example, a note of a meeting in a pub after a few drinks, okay? It's a proper meeting between 2 large organisations, one a worldwide brand and the other one is a very well-known UK brand. So let's have a look at the solutions. Solution 1, alter the branch, Horizon branch figure at the counter to show the discrepancy. Fujitsu would have to manually write an entry value to the local branch account. Impact. When the branch comes to complete next trading period, they would have a discrepancy, which they would have to bring to account. Risk. This has significant data integrity concerns and could lead to questions of tampering with the branch system and could generate questions around how the discrepancy was caused. This solution could have moral implications of post office changing branch data without informing the branch. All right? So we can see what's being said here. Let's put it fairly crudely, if you don't mind. This basically says one of the possible solutions could be let's fix the branch accounts without telling the branch sub-postmaster and see if we can get away with it. Now, is that what you expect of Fujitsu staff members, to even consider this as being an option?
No, it is not.
No. And try it the other way around. Are you slightly surprised about the post office considering this as a possible option in relation to fixing a branch account for one of their sub-postmasters?
I would give you the same answer.
Let's move further up the page, please, to the bottom of page 2, I think it is. Impact. Now, let's have a quick look at the impact section. So this is the impact of this branch. Now, the mismatch bug, we all know, I've described it in earlier questions for other witnesses, being a submarine bug. What I mean by that is it can affect branch accounts and it doesn't appear to be apparent to the sub-postmaster or mistress. So impact. The branch has appeared to have balanced, whereas in fact they could have a loss or a gain. Our accounting systems will be out of sync with what is recorded at the branch. If widely known could cause a loss of confidence in the Horizon system by branches. So this is not good news. Do you agree?
I agree.
All right. And it then goes on to say potential impact upon ongoing legal cases where branches are disputing the integrity of Horizon data. Now, given what we know about this document, which appears to include a possible fix, which, unless I'm very wrong, would lead to a conspiracy to false account between 2 large organisations, what this is saying is this, isn't it? That if this gets out, it's going to muck up legal cases where branches are correctly saying there's a problem with the system. We better not tell them. in other words. That's what's being considered between two important, well-known brands. How did that happen, Mr. Tait, under your lead?
I have no idea, Mr. Steen, but this is not how I would expect either organisation to work.
And you've been asked question after question by Mr. Blake here, who's been saying, well, what happened? What happened? Why weren't matters dealt with by your office? Why didn't you take notice of what was going on under your leadership? Now, there are two answers to this. Either you failed utterly in your leadership, or the staff beneath you failed utterly to tell you what was going on. Which answer would you prefer, your failure or your staff's failure?
I don't think it's a question of which I would prefer.
Which was it?
I think
Tait?
that from the documents that were given to me, I was reassured about Horizon.
Reassured by the same people, at least some of the same people, that were involved in relation to the mismatch bug and what was going on.
And I think Fujitsu executives and Post Office executives.
Thank you, Mr. Tait.
Thank you.
That it, Mr. Blake?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Then thank you very much, Mr. Tait, for providing your written evidence and for giving oral evidence during the course of the afternoon. I'm grateful to you.
Thank you, sir.
So tomorrow we have a potentially busy day again. Mr. Blake, I think Mr. Ward is first up, and he's remote. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir, yes.
Oh, it is correct,
That is
right.
correct.
All right then. 9:45 tomorrow.
Thank you very much, sir.